Start recording. Yes, it's true. I'm using Obsidian. Don't be mad at me. Don't hate me. Don't hate me for updating my preferences. Let me tell you the story. I want to make this a short video, but you know me, it takes a long time, and I have to tell you the story. How on earth did Mr. Anti-Obsidian, flipping people off, banning people for recommending Obsidian, become an Obsidian fan? Well, let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, I wanted to take notes on my phone. The end. That's it. That you can stop the video right now if you knew nothing more about this video. Seriously, I am not even exaggerating. If you knew nothing more about this video than that, you have all the answers. Everything else is kind of wishy-washy long form story. Okay. So the takeaway is very simply, I wanted to take notes from my phone. Not only that, I wanted to take notes by doing speech to text, because in 2025, speech to text is amazing, even on a Samsung. It's not as good as a Samsung as a Pixel. My Pixel was way better at doing speech to text. And I have a feeling iPhone would be way better than that. So in 2025, if you are typing, you're kind of a boomer. Unless you're writing code. Seriously, unless you're writing code in 2025, if you're taking notes by typing them out, I mean, you kind of are a boomer at that point. And, you know, no offense to the actual boomers out there. That's just a term that the young people use today. Why is this relevant? Because, look, let me show you. All right, so I'm going to give you some specific examples. Let's turn on the side thing here. So today, this entire one here, all I need is my phone. Right, I'm actually going to read it. As I sit here sipping my coffee from the patio outside with nothing more than my phone and my coffee, I realize just how amazing it is to write at the speed of thought. They say that writing is good, is easy to speak aloud, and this makes it all that better because I can hear myself rather than just type it away. Now, there's you know, there's going to be grammar and spelling problems and, you know, capitalization and all that. Why? Because it's notes. I'm just note taking and I'm doing speech to text. But I don't care. You know why? Because I did this with my coffee and my phone while I was sitting out there, and it was automatically published to GitHub every 5 minutes. Who doesn't want that? There literally is nothing simpler. There is not a simpler way on planet Earth to take notes remotely. There is nothing. There's nothing better. There's nothing better. The only thing better would be is if you hired an assistant to copy the stuff down. But you know what they would do? They would do what you're doing, which is they would like speak into their phone and take the notes and then have the model published to GitHub. So using Obsidian to dynamically sync, I'm going to get better. It's going to get even better, and to dynamically sync to GitHub and to you know, do autocorrect and all the other things it would do is see, there we go. See that just went through? That was an automatic GitHub sync that just happened. Okay. And so we're going to break all of this down for the rest of the video, but you know, the only downside of is the writing is obviously lack of capitalization, good punctuation, but as long as it's going to be in my notes in Obsidian, I don't care. Second part of the writing process, in this case, is having a WordPress blog. So I'll do a separate video on this. You know, saying the word WordPress makes me vomit a little bit in my mouth. But again, I can write a blog from my phone. Separate video on that. Totally separate video on that. But this all came about because I wanted to get rid of carrying my computer around, because I got two new bicycles, and I'm not into carrying around a bunch of heavy stuff. I want to ride my bike. I want to enjoy it. And I want to be on my mountain bike in the middle of nowhere and take a drink and take some notes about, I remind me to do this, or I can maybe have an idea. I have lots of ideas on the road, except for I'm old and my brain is not remembering things. So being able to take notes is good. And in the past videos, I've said, take notes in your Zettelkasten, and I ran it, into your AI, take notes in your AI. And I ran into a limitation with that because AI runs out of memory. I knew it would. I didn't know when it would be. And it turns out it's much earlier than I thought. So I don't believe that your AI is the best way to take notes. I now believe Obsidian is the best way to take notes, period. And you're talking to a guy who wrote his own knowledge management Zettelkasten system. I took it down. I can't even get to it anymore because you should be using Obsidian. I am now a paid $4 a month customer of Obsidian because the sync is just worth it. And quite honestly, as proprietary as it is, a bunch of good people up in Canada making Obsidian, and it rocks. I mean, it is a solid application. And my biggest apologies to anybody that I may have personally roasted. I'm thinking of a couple people specifically that I've downright told them, you know, you suck ass. And the reason that I got so angry is because they were using something called wiki links. So let's break down how to use Obsidian in a way that is indistinguishable from just plain old GitHub flavored Markdown. And this is important, people. The reason that all of my anger got erupted with this is because the form of Markdown that Obsidian uses by default is not compatible with GitHub flavored Markdown. It's not even standard Markdown. It's not even common Mark. They use something called media links. If the one tweak, and there's this, I've written up all these tweaks in my publicly accessible knowledge base, RWXRob/notes on GitHub. You can go see all of these notes in real time. You can go search them. I'll show you how to do that as a way to go about doing this. So, but the point I'm trying to make here is that if you click, if you go into your settings, this is this really important setting. And by the way, I've got notes. I'm trying to call them notes instead of Zettels now, but I've got note files on all of these, and we'll go through this. I turned off auto pairing Markdown syntaxes. That was messing up my bulleted lists. Let's see here. What's the one I was going to show you? I don't need line numbers, full indent, properties and documents, strict line breaks. Okay, these are all documented in my notes. I have a whole like a bulleted list of every single change that I suggest, and we're going to review that document in a second. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself on this first one. So let's see, readable line length. This is kind of fun. That makes it readable. We were playing with that earlier. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so I actually have links to it. I actually made videos. I mean, I made screenshots too, which I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to do screenshots easily, and this has gotten around that. I haven't put that in a note yet, but I will talk about it. I am using a paid version of Obsidian. Yep, I'm using the $4 a month paid version of Obsidian, which creates a synchronous between here and here. And I want to show you what I mean by that. So you see this, why do Obsidian link? Let's get started on that right away. The reason that I am paying for this is because I can automatically publish to GitHub from my phone if I buy the sync. You can't do that unless you buy the sync, which is totally worth it. The GitHub synchronization is a plugin that you have to add, and I'll sort of break all this down. I'm not really organized right now, but you can go find all this stuff in my notes if you want to see exactly what I'm doing. So here I am. I'm looking at my phone, and I'm going to the why do I use Obsidian link, and so here it is. For some reason it switched to white. It was actually dark mode before. So what I want to show you here is, see here at the bottom, right? So I can do this. I want to show you this. So you right now you can see the screen, right? So I can do this. This is just a sample to show you how it automatically synchronizes in real time. All right, that's pretty damn fast, right? And then every 5 minutes, whatever is here is going to be saved into my GitHub. And if I delete it from either of them, so if I copy and paste this, if I copy and paste it and I delete it, whoops, I'm not in edit mode, I'm in read mode. Oh, I'm also in VI mode. You know what? I'm going to turn VI mode off of this. I've been super debating about whether to do VI mode or not. And when I use a GUI, I tend to not use VI mode. for lots of reasons. Because you can't use filters and stuff. So anyway, that little delete thing doesn't work. I don't know why it would use VI mode in Obsidian, unless your fingers were really married to it. All right, so here we go again. Let's do this. So delete, hit delete, delete, and then it'll do the thing. It's just showing right here. So about done with this video. Auto, sorry for that. I just had to make a video. So did you see how that went away? Okay, so the last thing here. So why I use Obsidian. So what I wanted to show you is that it can be deleted that way just really easily. And honestly, the rest of the benefits you can kind of just look at on your own. What's that? You need to get water. The only thing that's showing is me right now. You see right here, you can look on the screen.
Voice out because I didn't really want you to.
You don't want me. You don't want your voice to be in the stream. All right. Well, I mean, we can like do around that. Oh, it's my bad. It's my bad. So I should not be doing live stream from here. But I am on the kitchen table doing this live stream. How cool is that, right? So if I was going to do a live stream, like a technical live stream, and I had the computer in the car and I took it to the coffee shop or something, I could do a live stream without having to take all my audio gear and everything. So this is kind of part of the new normal. Would you like to write an app? Press 10 seconds of the MP3, the audiobook. Unless there's additional questions. No, we don't need that app to have someone on your PC write into a note while you're cycling. Yeah, that's another thing you could do. So the other thing that's really cool about that, so that's not actually list. That's not one of the lists, the listed items. So one of the reasons to use this is, as somebody said, is because you can actually share it. You can actually share the account. So you could have somebody else taking notes for you, like one of my moderators. I could give them access to I could synchronize with them, and they could make new notes for me. And you'd have to trust them, obviously, but I already trust my moderators. So if I'm not talking into it, they could take notes and stuff, and we would have like live real-time notes of everything that we're writing there. So the truth of it is all I have to do is give you access to the Obsidian sync. I don't have to give you access to my GitHub repo, right? Because it only synchronizes automatically from here. So, and I'm out of battery, of course. My battery is just about to die. Give me 1 second, and let me see if I can pause the video. Yeah. I'm back. I guess that's the sign I need to finish up here. So this is the main summary of it. So I'm just going to go down these bullet points really quickly, and that'll be the end of this video. For any more information you want about that, it will be in the link. It'll be in my notes, and the notes will be linked from my Zettelkast. I mean, from this video at the bottom. My dog is doing yoga over here. So the first thing, if you wanted to be compatible with GitHub, you need to do is keep them in a single. In order to keep the cost down to $4 a month, if you're going to do the sync, and you don't need to do that, right? You can automatically do a GitHub sync. And you can even set up GitHub Sync from your phone using Termux and some other stuff. If you don't want to pay at all, you can do that. I don't mind it at $4 a month. That's plenty reasonable for me. For the amount of stuff that it's giving me. I mean, we're talking about, I can take a screen capture or a photo with my phone, and I can add it to my Zettelkasten notes immediately, and it'll automatically synchronize it up to GitHub. So, you know, short of blogging dynamically, that's the best thing I could probably want to do. And there's Obsidian for Teams. And I think my biggest complaint about Obsidian was that I wrongly assumed that they didn't have any intention of supporting the Markdown standards out there, and they absolutely do. I think it was a bad decision to add media links, but they immediately resolved that, and you can make it so that it makes some standard links now. So you need I think you should have one base README. That's what I have here. And so this is a README on, if you go to rdvxrob/notes, you can actually see it. And let's do that really quick. So if you go to github.com/rdvxrob/notes, you'll see, whoops, I'm in the wrong account. I have two accounts now that I stream all over the place. All right, so here we go. So this is what I was doing before. So here's the notes. and you get your Obsidian settings get saved, which is nice. And the first thing is you're going to see is that there's like a bunch of files that have spaces in it. We're going to come back to that in a second. So you click on README here, and you get the same stuff here. Now, the goal, of course, is so that the browsing of your README repository, your Notes GitHub Markdown repository, is 100% compatible with GitHub and also works in Obsidian. And if you are using media links, it won't work. So that was the thing that made me really angry. It really triggered me. And I don't remember if they didn't have it before, or I just didn't know about it. But for whatever reason, there is a setting you can go in and you can change it so that any of the media links that you add will be automatically converted into standard Markdown links. And so you can go ahead and use the convenience of that format, 2 double brackets, and then type it out. But you get the compatibility of these Markdown links that work as long as they're all relative and pointing to something at the top level. So let's go back to that. Let's see. I use GitHub Flavor Markdown. Why I use Obsidian. Why I don't use Zettelkasten. Why I'm okay with file names for notes, spaces in my file names. So if you go back here, taking notes with Obsidian on a phone, keep Obsidian compatible. So let's keep going through this. I suggest you add a legal info to the README file just so people know, and you put a disclaimer in there saying, hey, this stuff is my live notes, right? Which brings me to the next point: publish content from your notes and into polished books and blogs. So some of you know that I have a thing called perpetual publishing, which I still have. The books that I've been working on that I kind of put on hold for a second while I get back into the outdoors and everything, they are coming back. But now what I can do is, rather than having to be sure of what I want to put in the book, I can have a random thought while I'm on a bike ride, and I can, safely put it into my phone as a part of a Zettelkasten, I'm not calling it a Zettelkasten because it's really not, into my notes. And then I can go back to my notes and see which ones are recent. I can tag them, I can keyword search them or whatever, and I can pull that into the book. And that's the reason Lumen's approach for Zettelkasten made him so prolific, is because he had these notes already written. And one of the really great things about Obsidian that I've always wanted to add to any system that I started building was the ability to mind map. And you guys, anybody who's used it for 2 seconds knows about this, but this is one of the most powerful ways to do any kind of writing. It's also the #1 reason that you should pick descriptive names and titles that have spaces in them and get over your annoyance with spaces in the file names, because that doesn't ever land in anything except for the backup on GitHub, right? That's it. It's not going to become a slug. If it were ever going to become a slug, it would be something you would export later. So, a lot of people are like, well, no, duh, right? But this whole mind mapping idea, this is probably one of the single most powerful things from Obsidian that I've always liked, but wasn't willing to give up, the Zettelkasten standard or Markdown standard to get it. Well, now that I know that you can actually write 100% GitHub flavored Markdown and never have anything, incorrect or non-standard creep into your notes knowledge base, I get a graph for free. But then what you can do is you can take these nodes and you can convert that node into an outline, and you can convert the outline into a book. And so it's actually a really great way to write books. This is how I wrote all my papers and books in college, using a tool called Inspiration, and mind mapping tool for Mac. And it's a very, very fast way to create an outline out of just the creative thought process. And then boom, you put some skin on those bones and you got a book. So I'm super excited about this because this is a big part of it. But again, that's how, so that means that my I was starting to have conflicts because I was writing a blog in ASCII doc, and I was completely locked to not only doing it in ASCII doc, but doing something that I really support and I think is awesome, but only for those who want to publish a book, right? So I was having a hard time recommending that as a note-taking methodology to other people. Like, should I use ASCII doc instead of Markdown? I was like, I don't know. And now I think the solid answer is only if you're going to publish a book. 99% of people are going to be best served by Obsidian right now, free or paid, it doesn't matter, if they follow the standards. Okay, let's get back to the standards. Follow the one idea principle of Zettelkasten. As you saw in graph mode, by having one thought per node, you win, right? Because if your node has got like 2 or 3 or 4 major thoughts, major ideas, they don't show up in the graphic mode. So there's still a lot of value in, and I think in keeping with the, you know, the old ideas, you know, of one thought per note. And the easiest way to do that is to just make sure you don't put any headings in it. If you don't put any headings in it, if you're like reaching for a new heading, it's a good chance you need a new note instead of a new heading. And you know, if you've got 2 or 3 or 5, I mean, you can do that if it seems to make sense, but I just don't, I don't. So I have a couple of other things that I do. I only make text paragraphs because I want my raw code to look really good. I'm kind of jumping ahead, but I want my raw code to be readable, which means that I will put links down below. So this is the one thing, adding hyperlinks unnecessary to paragraphs makes them impossible to read in markdown form. By the way, this entire paragraph, I spoke it into my phone. To address this, I just clean up the text on this, the grammar. To address a simple, create those links, references in the paragraph in their own bulleted list at the end of the document, which is always rather short when following a one thought principle. So this means that my notes end up with the title at the top, which has traditionally been a huge problem for Markdown. Do you put a heading at the top or not, right? So my old systems, that title was always the first heading and it was always at the very top. Well, now that these things are being managed by the title itself, so the title of the file, which really took some arm twisting for me to be okay with, but the title right here is exactly the same as the title of the file. So that means you can't put fancy things in it, which I already was constraining myself to do. But you know, so you get the title, but that gets rid of the problem of like keeping your file names in sync with it. And Obsidian is really great. If you change this, it not only changes it in the file name, it changes it in every single file that links to it. So the freedom to change these useful names is taken care of, and the infamous problem of having, you know, the first line heading of the markdown file match is gone. Now there is a side effect to this that's slightly annoying. So that is when you click on a note, you don't have a title. And there's some people that would really get bent out of shape. I would do that. I would get bent out of shape out before, but the title's right here. Right? The title's right there in the name. It's super readable. This is just a note-taking system, so it's not like I'm going to die because it's not there. And I can change the title anytime I want, and it doesn't corrupt the internal content data there. You know, so some people will still be put off by that. I think it's fine. So what did I do here? Oh, that's an auto highlight. I don't even know what's going on right now. Am I in reader mode? It is a GUI app, so it does kind of make me, what the hell is this thing doing here? Why is that there? This is why I don't like graphic apps. Again, why am I using this at all, right? You're like, why is Rob using this? I am using this because press escape. What the hell was that thing? Anyway, so it's probably a preview of some kind. I do not use folders. We're going to talk about why I don't use folders. That was a very tough decision. So we're going to get there in a second. So follow the one idea, abandon other outdated ideas from Zettelkasten. So let's talk about this. So the ideas about unique identifiers and being able to do it on paper and all that, I think they're old and outdated. Why I don't, let's see. Actually, you know what we could do here? So here it is. Lumen created Zettelkasten at a time when computers were not really an option. Many of the physical limitations of the system were powerful, but they constrained the system today. The speeds of processes gets the medium out of the way. Obsidian is one of those systems. Unique identifier that Lumen suggested was unnecessary. It was completely necessary for the time, but it's not anymore. I used to complain about universal unique identifiers because that's what I thought Obsidian uses, and you can do that, but it's actually not what it uses. Obsidian by default uses the human readable title of the note as the unique identifier. And I love that. I love that because it forces me to create unique titles. If I have two titles that are identical, then I have a bad title, right? So I think it's a great idea. And I don't think it was always that way when I first evaluated it. The only principle from Zettelkasten workflow that I have kept is the one main thought principle, which I talked about already. And the one main thought being up here. This ensures I do not repeat myself all over the place. Okay, so the other thing of this is, okay, let's see, abandon, allow spaces in the file names so titles and graphs are readable. So this was really, really, really hard for me to do. And there are all kinds of ways you can add a plugin to automatically make your titles into slugs. The biggest reason to not do that, I already said it, is that your graphs become unreadable. Your graphs have these unreadable slugs in them as opposed to these really pretty, you know, look at this really, really pretty one-line idea, right? So you have this one-line thesis idea and that becomes in your graph and it makes this graph very useful. If you put dashes or stuff in there, you're going to do it. It's going to not work. So I feel like that's a big, you know, disadvantage of doing it that way. So I'm okay with spaces. Every modern system allows for spaces. If and when I'm on the command line messing with it, which I am doing right here. So yeah, so you can use any font you want. So here's all of my things, right? So if I truly wanted to go in here and edit it with VI, which I will, you know, I can do why I tab, you know, don't use blah, and I can just tab it out. Yeah, okay, this to a Unix person, this is like, you know, it just will not stand. But hear me out. There's still another really great reason to do this, and that is because you've made an actual title that has that's, you know, that's a title. It's like one thought in you know, distilled into one sentence ish thing, is that you get this extremely, you know, surprising benefit in GitHub. So I made a whole thing about this, but by making these titles over here, the file names, even though they're all flat, and we'll get to that, even though they're all flat, they can be very quickly searched. This was not something I could do using my knowledge base the other way. I had made unique identifiers for all the file names or folder names, and then I had to do an actual content search to get anything out of there. But because my titles are now very readable titles, which I can do this with, my Obsidian tool and my GitHub interface are identical. And that goes for my phone as well. And I can't overstate how amazing this is, even though I encountered it completely by accident. Let me show you what I mean. So let's say that I have literally 10,000 individual notes in here, right? Okay, so the first thing is like, oh, do we really want to make all of that flat? The answer is yes. And folders and categories are a failed taxonomy approach to knowledge management. I will make a case for that in a second. But let's just assuming it's all on the top. Because it's all on the top, we can now use the built-in GitHub filter technique to find the stuff that we want to do. So I can say, give me everything with GitHub in it. And it immediately finds every single file in here that's got the word GitHub in it, right? And if it's in this directory, it's even better. So like if I do Obsidian, you can see why Obsidian marked down here. I actually I wish I could make it so that it didn't look into .obsidian. That would be really nice. Let's do something that's not going to be like that. Let's do, I don't know, how about phone? So there, all I need is a phone to write, taking notes. Did you see how wonderfully this auto sorts? It gives me a readable thing. It auto, you know, it's a very common user interface technique to have a filter with a search, and you just type it and it auto filters it so that you can see around that. We're not going to use the terminal though. Okay, so anybody that's recommending fuzzy finders and stuff like that, and you missed the beginning of the video, the whole reason for this is because I want to use it from my phone. You can't use a fuzzy finder from your phone without a terminal. I love the terminal, but this is a note-taking tool that works in the terminal and works on my phone. and auto publishes. So that's why I like it. So you can go here, you can see the different things, and it'll actually take you right to, I mean, that is pretty damn cool. I mean, look at that. Look at that. This is the built-in GitHub interface, everybody. This is the built-up GitHub interface that I'm doing right now. And both of these notes, by the way, were completely taken by speaking into my phone and writing them. Okay. So if you haven't been sold at this point, I don't know what else to tell you. This is like hands down the best way to take notes on the planet. And so choose unique descriptive titles and title case, which we already talked about. Title case is scientifically proven to be easier to read than title case. Plus, it also works really well as a bulleted entry. You might want to make sure to not put periods on the end of it, on the end of your, if you avoid putting periods on the end right here, you can do this and you can do this and you can say add link, and it will go see, it will try to find a match. It will try to find a matching note that is already there. And if there's not one, it'll make one. So like choose unique descriptive title cases, right? So if I do this, if I say no match found, it'll either erase it. Whoops. I'm gonna have to Command Z that one. All right, so and now if I click on it, it will open up a new one. So if you make the link to it, it automatically creates the file and makes a link to it. That's all stuff that I had to code into my tool, which is built in automatically. So just easier to read them, right? So, and I can go back to the last one. This is another thing too, is you would see when I was doing this with the terminal, I'd have like 15 terminal tmux windows open because I would do this and then I'd open up a new one and I'd do this. They would make rules for my tmux to open up a new window to edit the different thing. This stuff is all built into Obsidian already. So now when I save on that, okay, now did you see how it was a media link at first, a media wiki link? But if you watch this thing, let's commit this. I want to show you. So if I commit it to GitHub and I show you it now, let's see here. I'm at the refresh. And you can actually sort based on when the last one was committed and everything. If you wanted to, you could watch the commit history. It's another thing. People can still follow you. They can follow your GitHub repo and they can see every change you look, and they can look at the commit changes and the diffs to basically subscribe to you, unless you want to force them to go to your RSS on your blog or something. So they can actually follow your changes just like they could before. So if we go choose descriptive titles, just easier to read. And it just made that actually put a comma in the name. That's kind of interesting. But did you see how easy it was to make that? Now let's actually go back to keep Obsidian compatible. What I want to show you here is if I show you the code. Oh, look at that one. That one didn't get changed. Oh, that's good to know. But that actually gives you the idea here. So you see how this one didn't get changed? I wish we need to figure out how to make that automatically get changed too. It looks like that's a remaining quirk. I don't know who did it, but somebody over there on the Obsidian project was listening, and they actually changed it. But you see, this is I'm glad this happened because this is exactly my complaint about it in the past. In the past, this was the only way to link. And because it stayed that way, you can see it doesn't link and these other ones do. Now, another thing I could have done here is I could actually say, I can actually edit it and change those things. And now what I can do is I can, if you already have the text there, you can right click and you can say add link and you can click on it. And then for some reason, clicking on the link does the right thing. So I think that's probably a leftover. I think that's probably a leftover that I don't like. Because I really like the auto creation of the note for me, but it's not that hard to just do this. To copy and paste this and say, new note, paste, right? And then that immediately becomes a note over here. And then I can link to that note, back in the where is it? So which one was that? Don't worry about slugs, right? So now when I right click on this and I do add link, it will find it. It will actually auto find it in my list of files and it will make the link for me. And that's how I've been doing my links in the past. The thing that's really great about this is the interoperability of, a single line bullet point and what will become eventually an idea. And so a bullet point in general is already kind of a single main thought. So this ability to instantly take, notes using bullets if you have a, those are easier to do, by the way, if you're just typing, right? So I regularly do bulleted lists of ideas, but if the more freeform ideas, I can also do that. It's just, those are much harder to do on the phone, teach speech to text. But if I have I regularly will like do a whole bunch of bullet pointy things, and then I want to go back and flesh those things out. It's actually a pretty common way to do this. And then I can go in there and just make each one of them into its main thought, and I can expand on it. It's not milk, my friend. It's not milk. It's not. It's because my stash is uneven. Somebody's making fun of my mustache. But good call though. No, this one right here. Yeah. All right. Enough. Back to the thing. So, is that a joke? My tiny little mustache. Yeah, my blonde mustache. Anyway, so let's go back to what we were talking about. So allow spaces and file names. Choose unique descriptive titles. Don't worry about slugs. Slugs are the things with dashes, if you don't know, that you see in WordPress or whatever. Those things are only important once it becomes a web page, right? Or if you're going to be doing a lot of file system kind of terminal interaction with the thing. If you are interacting with it in these ways, you don't care about that. Set up automatic sync using GitHub on all devices. So that is a plugin. I'm briefly going to show it to you. It's called GitHub Sync. It's a plugin. You turn it on. You point it to your remote URL. That is it. If your system already has Git access to that repo, it uses Git from the system. So it's exactly the same as typing a Git sync. And it puts the device and then the timestamp in the comment. So it's the same as my save command, except for it's got a better comment. And that's it. That's all it takes to get GitHub Sync to work. You can set it up to go automatically. Mine's every 5 minutes. And then it auto syncs when you start up. So, and something else I want to talk about really quickly here. Let's see here. Okay, so I didn't talk about it. So if you have your laptop on or whatever, it's got Obsidian, and Obsidian is running with its GitHub Sync on, you can leave that on, plugged into the wall, of course, and you can be on your phone, and I just showed you this, and you can live in real time, you can make a note, even while you're writing, you can make a note, do speech to text, and that note will be auto-synced into the Obsidian running on your laptop or wherever, and then that, every 5 minutes in my case, will be automatically published to GitHub. That's pretty damn cool, because that means that people that are following, let's say that I would, and by the way, that whole entire process is completely internet agnostic. That means that if I'm on my bike, let's say I'm out on my gravel bike and I am riding in the middle of nowhere, and I want to make a note about something, but I want somebody else to see it, right? Or I want to give kind of a live blogging note-taking system, but I don't want to make a full-blown blog, right? Now, I could make a ton of Instagram posts that always require you to have a picture, which is annoying. You can't do that live. But you can literally be biking along and you could take a note. You can even take a picture with your phone and you can put it in the note while you're biking, and it will automatically synchronize to your GitHub on your next internet accessibility. So it will store on your local phone, and then when your phone has internet access, the internal synchronization mechanism of the Obsidian app will automatically detect that, push it up to Obsidian on your laptop, and that will get automatically pushed to GitHub. So that means if you have people that are following you, like the dot watcher kind of people, you can actually automatically have people follow what notes you're taking as you go. You can make little teeny tiny videos and post them to YouTube every once in a while, but this keeps you, I mean, if you're a Turtlebyte competitor or something like that, I would think this would be an amazing resource, because you can actually do real-time notes with minimal internet activity. And since I'm going to have a Starlink Mini running off a USB battery, phone charger on my road gravel bike and on my mountain bike, I should say, when I'm doing like not trail riding, but when I have that around, that means I have permanent access to publish live notes of what's going on in real time. I'm like, in real time. We're not talking about waiting till you get to the next library. We're talking about, real-time note-taking, real-time pictures without Instagram, right? So if you're, I love that, because it's for a live streamer like me, there's going to be moments where there's not going to be any live streaming capability. We're going to have lots of leaves and there's no Starlink and there's no mobile. So during those times, I can still do the same process. I don't have to change anything. I can change the act of, I can still take, pictures, and I can put those in my Write with GPS so it automatically publishes the picture at that spot. Plus I can also include it in my notes if I want to on my Zettelkasten while I'm writing, assuming I'm in a safe place. And I can have that all be happening at the same time. And then when I get to the internet, when I have, mobile, when I'm in mobile range or satellite range, that stuff will automatically be published and synchronized. I got to tell you, that is amazing. As an outdoor enthusiast and as somebody who likes to do a lot of writing and note-taking stuff, I cannot imagine life without this, having now discovered this. So I had to share it. Let's just knock out the last few here. Setting up automatic sync to GitHub, I just talked about. Change the default to use standard markdown relative links internally. I already talked about that. Don't use wiki links or the media links that are not compatible, as you saw. Don't use anything that isn't GitHub flavored markdown. This is super important. So if you need math notation, you can do that, right? That's the kind of thing you would only do from your laptop, obviously. But if you need to take really intense math notes, you can. Both GitHub and Obsidian fully support math. In fact, there are plugins to make the creation of math notation much easier. Or you don't have to actually know KTeX or whatever it is, which is, by the way, fully supported by GitHub Flavor Markdown. It's been supported for now 3 years or so. It's a subset of LaTeX, if you know what that is. Most people these days are not writing books in LaTeX. They're writing them in Markdown with LaTeX support. And then it's easier to write Markdown, and then they move it from there. That does kind of remind me of one of the downsides of this is that, and quite honestly, one of the reasons to not put a bunch of Markdown in your paragraphs, which we'll get to, because when it comes time to write the book's probably going to be written in ASCII doc, and you're going to be copying and pasting snippets out of your Zettelkasten, out of your notes into your book, right? And when you do that, if you got a lot of internal Markdown linking inside of your paragraph, you'll have to run that through a converter because ASCII doc doesn't do linking in that way. Another alternative would be to use some form of Markdown book generator. There's many of those. I just prefer ASCII doc to this day. I still prefer it. So, it's yet to be said how difficult it's going to be to take my notes and put them into a book. I made a pretty strong argument in the past that if you're doing a book, you should stick with book writing and keep all of your content in the book. But, I'm on the road. I'm not going to be able to do any of that. So that kind of thing I want to be able to do from my phone. And then I want to be able to take those notes and incorporate them into my perpetually published book in some fashion and make it change. This entire process is actually, because I can make it so public while I'm having these ideas and thoughts, this entire process has gotten so easy to read and so easy to do that I'm now back to a position of kind of waiting to do a book until it's entirely finished before I publish it. Because I've reformatted books so many times, at least 5 times in the last year, that I'm more inclined to wait until the entire book is finished and focus on creating content in many note forms, and then pulling it together. It's a little bit harder with the coding book because there's a bunch of coding examples in there and stuff that obviously I can't do from the road very easily without a computer. But the more like the novel, or the travel blog articles and those kind of things, those are all super easy to do from from the road. So that's the kind of thing. Well, it'll probably be a distinction there. But I think probably what it'll be is that my blog articles will be written in story form, and then the collection of those stories will somehow eventually go into some sort of book or travel blog if I ever do that. So change the default to use the standard relative markdown. We did that. Don't use anything that isn't GitHub flavor. Disable default automatic hard link breaks, which is really important because you want the paragraphs to automatically wrap. I've talked about this before. Only publish raw bolt on GitHub. So, I think people have told me many times that Obsidian has the ability to export to all kinds of different cool things. And quite honestly, I think you shouldn't do that. And let me tell you why. I've already showed you how easy it is for someone to browse your repo by just clicking around on the repos and then finding the things they want, just using GitHub, right? And they don't even have to have a GitHub account for that. They can do that, just send them there. I think that's much better than managing yet another thing, right? Because if you set up export, you'd have to set up automatic exporting. I mean, one thing you could do is you could activate the built-in web browser that comes with any Git repo by default. The only problem with that is that it does not see things at the top level. You'd have to put it under docs, or you'd have to put it under a different branch or something. And I don't, but I don't see how it's a problem to just send them to the README. Plus, you're going to get people more inclined to follow, to subscribe and like and start a repo by sending them directly to the repo than you would if you've got people going someplace else. If you change the default to use, so if you're only publishing that raw vaults markdown to GitHub, and you've done GitHub flavor compatible markdown, you're good. That includes something I'm getting to here, which is keeping everything flat. It's probably one of the most controversial things, but when you really think about it, it's no different than what I was already doing. Before, I had a uniquely identified file for every Zettelkasten entry, and I had thousands of them, 3, 4, 5,000 of them, and to the point where you couldn't list a directory, and you lost the ability to see the titles because the titles in my case were in GitHub Git commits. And I think that, and now looking back compared to this, I think that was a bad idea. I think it's better to keep the name unique, because if you have a unique name, you just grep that directory if you're on the terminal. Otherwise, you effectively grep it during using the GUI like I just demonstrated. And by having it all in a single top-level file, you're never afraid that there's something living down below, right? But more importantly than that, categorization by category as opposed to tagging, which is still a thing, which I'm considering, is always a fail. Because just like this video is a good example, right? This video is both a technical video and an IRL, streaming video. So it's relevant to people who want to be cyclists, and it's relevant to people who want to take notes for technology. And it's got multiple categories. And if I had to pick a folder to put it in, do I put this in my IRL category folder, or do I put it in something else? It wouldn't work. And let me give you an example of this. I am dual streaming, triple streaming this video right now. So this video is going to my YouTube RWX Rob Fun channel, which I'm going to put a plug in for that. Not very many followers on there. That's just me having fun on the bike and everything, which I'm looking forward to doing. It's a great day for mountain biking out there today. And it's also getting pushed to my RWX Rob Fun Twitch channel, which is live streaming, same thing, basically the same thing as YouTube, but Twitch. Got a lot more fun plugins like Bellum's airline bot, and it tells you the airline that's flying overhead, and a bunch of other really cool things that are outdoorsy related. And it's, of course, that is under the, I believe we're in the IRL streaming category on Twitch, right? But I also have this streaming to another one, RWX Rob, which is now, it wasn't just before, but it's now 100% tech content and only tech content. So, but this is tech content, right? So, and that category, I believe, is science and technology. Doesn't really fall under software. So you see my point? So if I were to try to take this recording and organize it in my, notes, or even in my file system, where do I put it? Right? Where do I put it? Do I put it under IRL? Do I put it? Folders and categories never work. Just like the species, the phylum class thing, that just never worked. There's always the platypus that's going to break all the categorizations. It's better to describe data, information, and things in terms of what makes them a thing. And this goes for software development as well. This is why composition and interface declaration, telling you about a thing and how it does, how can it walk, can it write, can it, what can the thing do, is better, and what its properties are, what colors are, is always better than trying to categorize something that has all those properties into a specific thing. And inevitably, because you can take those granular properties and mix them together, in this case tags, 3 or 4 tags, and say, okay, I want everything that's got these 3 tags. So the idea of knowledge management by category is largely a fail. Now, I still do it on my blog. I have thoughts, right? But what ends up happening is I end up getting these like really monstrously huge categories because, they don't have another one that's gear, right? Well, what happens when I have a story that is about how my gear failed me, and I'm telling you, and I lost the rest of my teeth or something. It's like, is that a story? Does it go under the story, or does it go under thoughts, or does it go under gear? It goes under all of them, but now I can't put it under all of them because I have to have category. In fact, I just talked myself into removing my categories. I only recently relaunched my blog on rwxrob.blog, and I was just messing with the templates. So I'm going to get rid of the categories there completely. Because tags are always better. Tags allow you to have like multiple tags on the thing, and you can say everything with this tag. Just use tags. Never end bullet items with a period. I talked about that so that it becomes a link really easily. And keep paragraphs free from hyperlinks. And I talked about that because, again, if you're going to be moving to another thing, you want all the hyperlinks to be in the stuff at the bottom, and you can get a sense of this just by scrolling through this. By the way, that's a screenshot. So there's another screenshot. So I always put, what I do is I'll end up, if I don't put the links in the paragraph, but if I have referred to another thing, then I put the links at the bottom of the page. And this is very, very compatible with bibliographic kind of things. I don't need it to have related. I used to put related after that. I'm not doing that anymore. So, I think that's a good way to do it, is to just put all the links that might possibly be available down at the bottom. And then that will create the graph that you're seeking so that stuff tends to congeal. That doesn't happen automatically. I think you can make it do that automatically, but I haven't played with that yet. So a bunch of really great ideas about how to do this stuff. Hopefully this will need a rant tag. We absolutely need a rant tag. And I don't know how I haven't started using tags yet, but when I do use tags, I will use them as I think that it already has Markdown YAML tags supported, but I haven't added any tags yet. But I usually in the past I've been kind of anti-tag, but they're a widely accepted extension to Markdown. So I feel like that's probably going to be the way to go. I still am not a big fan of even tagging because I feel like the content itself is better. So if I have picked a good title, and I don't mind the titles being really long, I was limited before. I was limited to 50 or 60 characters, and now I'm not. If the title has every keyword that's really really relevant, I don't really need tags because I can do the filter. And I can say, I can do the whole thing here, and I can actually filter it here. I can filter it in GitHub. The point is that, I don't need any extra tags from what's already in the title. And so, I may still add them back. For my blog, they definitely apply. From my blog, they definitely apply because then you can click gear and get all the blogs with gear in them. And I believe you can do that here with Obsidian as well, but I haven't done that yet. So that's a pretty long video, but I feel like I owe it to all of the people that have been telling me to use Obsidian over the years. And they're like, I told you. And my response to those people is, yes, you were right on a lot of things. Yes, I'm sorry. I love you. I thank you for harping on me. But also, it didn't have half this stuff when I first evaluated it. Okay. And I don't know if they added it because I ranted about it. That would be really funny. Or if they, if it eventually the consensus of a lot of people started to push them in the right direction. So I fully support Obsidian. I actually want them to keep making money and stay in business. I think they're doing good things. And I am not afraid of my content being incompatible with the civilization in 100 years in the future being able to read my content, because I am now using standard Markdown on GitHub. That is browsable on GitHub and is also something I can compose from my phone. So here's to you, Obsidian. You've done a great job. I appreciate it. And that's all for this video. Thank you. I'm going to go ride my mountain bike now.